race, migration, probably maybe economy. I could imagine that we maybe have similar opinions, but all the other things I've just mentioned, I think we disagree on most of them.
Seems like a lot of things, Lars.
Yeah.
Where are you from?
What do you think?
Germany.
How do you, is it the accent or the accent together with the name?
Yeah. The only other Lars I know is a sort of middling drummer for a 80s metal band.
You mean from Metallica, Lars Ulrich, yeah?
It's the only other one that I know.
Yeah, but he's Danish. He's German.
Anyway.
But listen, man, I'll give it to you. It's the same people. It's the same people. Germans and Danish, they're very similar to one another.
You said a lot of things here, Lars, about your feelings about a lot of like other human beings on here. I'm just curious as to like what, are you still in Germany?
Yeah.
Okay. Any groups you belong to?
You mean ethnically or religiously?
Politically.
I mean, I'm in no party, but I'm on the far right. Very
far right German.
I'm not German. I'm Polish. I live in Germany. I lived all my life in Germany, but I'm of Polish descent.
Far right Polish German.
Make it far right Pole that lives in Germany. I think that's the best description.
Okay. And you don't think that like people in the gay community, maybe this is my own dumbass fault for asking questions like this, but like, what's your beef?
I don't hate these people at all, and I think you're free to do in the bedroom whatever you want to do, but I oppose the whole ideology that stands behind this, that is basically propagating their lifestyle. I mean, I live in Berlin. We've got flags, rainbow flags all over the place. There's a very big flag right in front of our town hall, and there should be a German flag there. I say this as a Polish person, and I see the same thing happening in the United States, in the UK, and France as well, and I oppose that. We Poles, we are very sensitive to this. We don't want that in our country.
I've been to Poland. I raced in Poland. Mm-hmm. I raced my bicycle in the Baltic car canoe store, and the prevailing feeling that I got in Poland was that that it was like I had stepped back 30 years. That was like my prevailing, wherever I was like, this could have been 1990 when I was there.
In what sense?
Pretty much every sense, but specifically this sort of like, this sort of repressed sort of post-Soviet like hang up, I guess. And this, I'm going to be pointed here because I don't like this ideology at all. I think that this is very sort of like it, not only reductive, but very simple. And it should be something that you should like be able to, you should be able to think your way out of. And I think that like people who still labor under this delusion that you have, which is like, this is being pushed upon you, is something that like, you just haven't done a single moment of like heavy mental lifting about this. And that's unfortunate for you for a lot of reasons, mainly because like you're depriving yourself of like really great relationships with people all over the planet, but also because like it hurts the people that you feel this way about in a roundabout way. And so like there's a mix of like pity and sort of anger when I hear somebody say the things that you say. And mostly like, I'm just curious, has this ideology that they've been pushing affected you? Like, do you find yourself sometimes craving the attention of another man?
I have no idea what you're talking about. I also find it very funny that you're basically saying that we are 30 years back. The truth is Poland is a very, very safe country. Our women are not getting raped on the streets like they are being raped in Germany or in France. Or
Sure. We can talk about race in a second. I want to talk about this idea that this ideology is being pushed upon people. And I'm curious, has it worked on you at all? The gay agenda.
Sure, it has worked on me, of course.
You've experimented with other men?
I was in a polyamorous relationship, yeah. So I was much more liberal 10 years ago. Yes, I have a lot of friends who have who are gay or are still gay, and I think it's all degeneracy. That's basically the way I see it. I don't see a healthy society when I look to the United States or to Germany. I see a healthy society when I look to the East. We have a kindergarten here in Berlin, and I'm not. I mean, cut me off if I'm going too much into detail. But there was a kindergarten here in Berlin, and they opened, I think, another one in the west of the country, where they basically had rooms for, how do I put that? It was for self-exploring your body. It's the M word, the master word for children.
Okay.
Look it up. It's not a lie. This is being pushed by those people.
Those people being
the LGBTQ activists.
That doesn't sound like an LGBTQ.
Look it up. Look it up. Another one I can give you is that our Ministry for Family Affairs has issued on their website a link where basically they suggest that.
Can I just before you go? Can somebody trustworthy in the chat look this up for us so that we can verify whether or not, and just say once you've done that, just request so that we know if we can just dismiss this outright or give us context, because I think it's important. We have a similar sort of thing that the first thing that I think of when I hear that is that they're putting cat litter in bathrooms for kids who identify as cats. And we had this huge Republican uproar thinking that this is sexual depravity led by the LGBTQ community. And then it turned out that was fucking insane nonsense, obviously. And of course it's not true. And so, yeah, I think that like this is, if we can confirm, been debunked. All sources from Fox News adjacent. Absolutely not happening. Fox News. The story was debunked months ago. I'm German and it's not true.
I mean, just post your your source for that, because
I think you made the claim, right?
Sure. Should I translate it? I mean, it's in Germany, right?
Debunked in 2023. Name the school. What's the school?
It was in Kerpen. Kerpen is a small place in the west of Germany.
Okay.
I think it's this one, but I would have to look it up a little bit. I think there have been other cases of that in Germany as well.
They're not setting up gay rooms.
I did not say gay rooms. That's not what I said.
Right, but you're implying that this community is encouraging kids to explore their bodies at school, which is, I think, a very, very strong reach.
Well, that's here in Kerpen that happens. So there was a room that was set up for children to self-explore their body. You know what I mean? And yeah.
Did you choose to be in a gay relationship?
I don't know what you mean by that.
When you were in a gay relationship, as you said earlier, were you making that? Were you making a choice?
Sure, to a certain degree, yeah. I think you can change your sexuality. It's not that big of a deal. I mean, look, for example, most men find. I mean, the chat can say can give their opinion on that. But for example, we have a very constructed idea of what femininity is. For example, women should it's proposed that they should shave their body hair, but a lot of women do actually have body hair, and a lot of men find that manly if a woman is not shaven. But that's not really, female in a sense. That's just a concept of femininity that we have made up in the last decades. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of men would really have a problem to be in a relationship and feel real romantic feelings for a woman that would have a lot of body hair, even though that's completely natural. You get what I'm saying, right?
No. To be honest, that's a very sort of progressive standpoint on like body positivity. That doesn't align necessarily with like what you are describing about how like men should be with women and women should be with men, and that's how it should be.
Well, because I put the family union above everything. I'm not how do you call it, utilitarian? I don't think that we should, maximize each one's happiness, but we should try to, level up society. And the nuclear family has been a very proven family type in the last couple of decades and centuries, I mean. And for example, I was in a relation, I'm very political, and when I'm in relationships, usually the people around me, they, we put politics aside because they don't like my political views, and I always split up with them at the end because of my political views, and because I think that's more important than what I feel as a person. The love that I have for another person is not as important as the fate of my country and my people.
These political views being anti-gay, we haven't even touched on the racial component or whatever.
Yeah, that's going to be a fun one. Yeah, that's going to be a very fun one.
I don't think so.
I think so. But don't call it anti-gay. I have no problem. Do whatever you want to do at home. I have no issue with that. Explore. I think it's very stupid to live your life, just as, to force yourself into heterosexuality without exploring.
But that's what you're demanding of people.
No, I'm not demanding that. What I demand is that people should, in the end, they should marry, settle down, and have children. For example, in China,
I think the cognitive dissonance that you just displayed. I'm sorry to cut you off here. The idea that you're saying, I'm not forcing anybody to do anything. I just think that you should go against how you were born naturally and subscribe to this rigid heteronormative ideal. By the way, I also don't think that women should be subjected to this heteronormative body hair image. You're first of all over the road. Second of all, that's absolutely what you're demanding of people doing. You're saying people should just be able to do whatever they want. They should, however, eventually marry, according to me, and other sort of repressive, hetero-specific doctrine that we are all sort of boxed into. I think that the fact that you can't hear the thing that you're saying is baffling to me.
But that's nothing uncommon. The Chinese do it like that, for example. In China, a lot of people, there is some sort of homosexuality, and a concept of homosexuality in China, and they demand from their people that they should just marry, have children. What they do on the side.
Do you think that that's good? Russia jails people for being gay. Is that good?
I don't think Russia jails for being gay. I don't think
you're
so.
Wrong. Not only are you wrong, it's easy to tell you that you're wrong.
I don't think.
Also,
but look, I'm not pro Russia. I mean, they definitely do that in Chechnya and in the Caucasus
and in Russia. It is illegal. It is illegal to be out in Russia. First of all, and second of all, why are you pedestalizing authoritarian governments demanding what people do in their own relationships? That's psychotic. Why would you want a government demanding that you fit into their sort of I mean, I can't pin you down, Lars, to be honest, poor choice of words here, but if the German government said suddenly every man marries a man, every woman marries a woman, that would be something that would be entertaining or possible to you?
I mean, listen, if it would make sense, yeah. If it would make sense, I don't think it could make sense currently, but if there would be some
gay people have structure and nuclear families all the time, so successfully, I might add. So
could you repeat that? I didn't get that.
Gay people have successful families. Often, they adopt children and raise successful children in a two-parent household where traditionally heteronormative relationships have a over 50% divorce rate. So is that an example of why we should force society to fit into this new paradigm? Yeah, great that you said that. Maybe someone in the chat can look that up. In Germany, we call those family rainbow families. Do you have a term for that in the United States as well? Yeah, we do. It's called families. But let's say families where they're a non-heteronormative family. How many are there in the United States, for example? Because in Germany, the situation is like this. We don't count them. I know that's something that Germans like to do. Yeah, but great. I'll bring up the situation in Germany. We have approximately something between 5 and 10% gay people. That's what most people assume. That makes 4 to 8 million people. We have 15,000 such families. That's nothing. That's almost zero, Homosexual people who are not heteronormative, don't seem to care that much about starting families, not in the same rate as heteronormative people. And the truth is, okay. I mean, can I finish my point, please? I mean, homosexuality has been around since ancient times. The Romans knew it, the Chinese, the Greeks. However, no one ever had the concept of gay marriage because it didn't make any sense. And I also think most gay men didn't want to commit to marriage in that sense. Can we talk about the millennium? Yeah, sure. Cool. If we could stay in the current day, do you think that gay kids that are growing up should be aware that there are gay adults, that there's a possibility for them to grow up into a happy, healthy human being? Or do you think that should be hidden from them? Oh, I don't think that should be hidden. Okay, so how do you propose they learn that gay people exist? I think it's all across the media. I mean. Well, yeah, but that's the problem. Remember, you had a problem with that. So how do you think they should learn?
Did I
Like,
ever say?
like when I was a kid, for example, there weren't gay characters in TV shows and movies, and it was incredibly isolating. It contributed to my own bullying. This was in the 90s, so before the internet. So it's much worse now for kids. So what would you suggest? Do you just want them to crawl through the darkness until they're adults, and then they can find out that they're not abnormal and toxic and harmful? What's your idea, Lars?
As I said, I'm very sorry for you. I can imagine
No,
that your
don't be
child.
sorry for me. I'm not asking for your pity. I'm asking for your brilliant ideas, since you're so ahead of the curve.
I think it's to a certain degree omnipresent in media, so I think that's enough. I don't think that's something we need to teach children in school.
Oh, okay, so they don't need to be made aware of that. Do you think they should find out about marriage at all? Or families? Do you think they should learn about any type of families? Or are we just going to freeball it into the future for kids just so we're not influencing them? Also, do you think I learned to be gay by not having any gay role models? Where did I learn how to do that?
It's a great point.
I didn't say that you learned that, right?
Well, where do you think kids learn it? If you don't want them having gay people in the schools, if you don't want them in the movies or the media, like where are kids learning to be gay?
There was the Power Rangers. I will mention.
True.
I didn't say any of that either. I don't want.
Okay, well, I'm just wondering if you can imagine the humanity of gay kids before you go talking about what's good for kids. That would be a great start for you, is to recalibrate that part of your understanding of the human experience that we didn't learn to be gay from commercials or movies.
Yeah, but I didn't say that.
Well, you're suggesting it.
I'm not even suggesting that. I'm just saying
You
that.
are. You're saying it's in the media, buddy.
You said
you're saying
it's
it's from the
being
classroom. You're saying it's a
pushed.
problem.
Yeah, of course it's being pushed. Of course.
But you just said that you
It's
weren't
being
saying
pushed
that.
on who? It wasn't pushed on me. I turned out as gay as you could possibly be. Who pushed it on me?
Yeah, but in the 80s, there were no rainbow flags waving all over
Yes,
the
there
Western
were.
world.
The rainbow flag was around in the 70s. Do you think I saw it as a kid in the 80s?
Maybe
Where did
in
I learn to be gay, Lars?
Maybe I've never said that you learned to be gay again.
Okay, so then what's the problem? Would you rather these kids have some sort of future in front of them? Or would you rather deprive them of that because you're afraid of gay people?
I'm not afraid of gay people. I've also
You
never said
are,
that.
though. You are. It's very clear.
I have no idea what you're talking about. I
know. That's the hard part.
I want a self-sustaining population that is based on the nuclear family.
Okay. Yeah.
Wait. Everybody
We're
wait.
not a threat to that, and we also have families.
Everybody wait. Lars. Okay. You just got through telling us that there's a vanishingly small amount of gay couples trying to start families, right?
Yeah, in Germany that's the case. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Tell me what it looks like. What in your mind? What happens? How many people need to become infected with the LGBTQ mind virus to end society and have everybody's just gay now? What does that look like to you?
I think you're setting up a very weird dichotomy.
No, you said I'm worried about a self-sustaining society, implying that at some point everyone's just going to be gay and the human race dies out. And I just think that is, first of all, not a unique thing that I've heard, which is upsetting because it's so apocalyptically stupid. So just tell me what that looks like.
I've never said that. But
forgive me.
We're either insignificant enough that we don't need to be represented in the media, or we're a giant threat that's going to take over the world. You can't have it both ways.
I also didn't say that, but as I've mentioned, we have around 5 to 10% gay people in Germany. That makes 4 to 8 million people. That's a very big chunk of the population. It would be better if a lot of those people would have kids, one way or the other. It seems like
a bigger chunk of your daily thoughts. If you could keep this to 10% of your daily thoughts, you'd be in a better state. I guarantee you this.
No, I'm sure.
None of this concerns you. And yet you insert yourself into this as though you're protecting someone when all you're doing is further alienating gay kids, contributing to their mistreatment, and prolonging all of our mistreatment as a community. People like you suck for this reason, and I wish you could hear what you're saying.
I mean, that's already something I find so weird about you. So do you define yourself because of your sexual desires?
No, but the world did for me, Lars.
So
the world defined me by my sexuality. I didn't need to do it myself. The point of what I'm talking about is having pride in yourself, no matter who you are. And you seem intent on depriving queer kids the ability to be proud of themselves in favor of telling them how they're outliers to your productive, populist society of straight people. It's really disgusting. So there you go.
Pride for what? Because you're kissing a man?
Because we're told to be ashamed of ourselves.
I don't think you should.
Clean your ears, man.
I don't think you should be ashamed of yourself.
Yes, you do.
Yes, you do.
You think that we should be represented in
Lars, you said 2 minutes ago, just do it at home.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you think I don't have a family, Lars? Do you think gay people just aren't interested in families? You don't think I have a
Yeah,
family?
you're less interested in families than that's. The
Oh,
whole
okay.
thing.
That's great to hear from you, because sometimes I wonder, and it's awesome to hear from random Polish people how interested in my family I am
In America.
in America. Very insightful. Thanks, Lars.
I mean, it's just the way it is. If you
Yeah,
look
it's
at
the way it is. In your weird
you know
head.
I'm right.
Lars.
You know I'm right. Yeah.
What?
If you look at the gay community, you know I'm right. They don't concern themselves that much
Lars,
with marriage. As,
first of all, dog, brother, my brother in the Spaghetti Monster. The fight for people who are gay to get married in America has been going on for longer than I've been alive. If they didn't give a shit, they wouldn't have done that. They wouldn't have fought and died in riots to normalize the way that they are born. It is psychotic to say that they just don't care about that, because they do. We do. I care about other people's ability to get married and have the same fucking rights I do in America and in the world. I would prefer gay people not be murdered and jailed all over the world. I think that is a fucking thing that we should demand of our human existence.
but I oppose the prosecution of gay people across the whole world. You know.
Great, gold star for you, dude. But
Not very passionately. I wouldn't put my life in your hands. That's for damn sure.
I think I might not be the best defender of gay rights. That's probably
Yeah, you're
true.
not.
But
You're not. So don't equivocate. Just say that you're not.
Just before we move on to just give me your parting words here about race. You seem to want to like volunteer that, and I'm just curious.
Yeah, sure. I'm really deep into that. You know, that's a topic.
I'm going to exit because there's no way I'm getting involved in. So thank you for having me.
Thank you, dude.
Yep. Bye bye.
Great mustache, by the way. All right,
He had a great mustache. I agree on that.
go for it, dude.
Yeah, I think there's a very strong link between race, culture, and we pretend that that's not the case. We pretend that we could just let in 100 million African people or Asian people, whoever, into the United States, and if we could just socialize them the same way we socialized the Europeans that came there 100 years ago, America would just be the same country. But that's not the case. There is a strong link between race and culture, and if another people moves into a country, the country will change for the better or maybe for the worse. And I think in the case of Western Europe and America, it's going to be for the worse in the next decades.
What are you basing this on?
Well, the first thing, and this is my main argument, race, religion, all those things have been a constant source of conflict. If people are grouped together,
Lars, as a Pole and as a German, talking to a descendant of Holocaust survivors and immigrants because of that, I'm just curious as to what your viewpoints would have been in the 30s, hearing the same sort of rhetoric coming from a dude saying that about my fucking grandmother and grandfather.
I mean, it's very funny. We're saying there. I also have relatives that have been killed in Auschwitz. I have an uncle on my father's side in the
Great,
Stammlager.
we're the same. So why is it?
You're Jewish, right?
Why is it that somebody that has a similar experience with violence and prejudice against your family at the hands of a racist dictator can come away thinking this insane, very specific propaganda used by the same Nazis? By the way, just before you answer, the cultural patchwork that is America is much different than many other countries on Earth. It's not unique, but it is specific. Our foundational patchwork is that we are a melting pot. That is like something that the people that have half a brain in our heads left champion and celebrate. The thing that you are talking about this, like the poisoning the blood of our country, that's not a real thing here. We don't have that because that's intrinsic to being an American. That's an intrinsically American experience, is that everybody's different. That makes us the same. What you're talking about is like the thing that makes America great, ironically. Now, I want you to talk about why you think that having different cultures enter America or anywhere else it signals like this apocalypse, racial apocalypse.
Are you done?
Sure.
So, I mean, what you were just saying for the last minute was just completely wrong. I'm very well informed of how the United States came about. And the truth is that the United States had up to 1965 a very strict migration policy, only exclusively for white people. Lyndon B. Johnson was the first one to sign the Immigration Act that allowed non-white immigration. Up to 1980, 50% of all US Americans were English or German. I'm saying specifically English, not British. And if you add up all the other groups, the Irish, the Scottish, the Dutch, the Scandinavians, and then maybe even the Polish, that's America, basically. And it has been America for the last centuries. All the founding fathers were Brits. All the US presidents, with exception of Mr. Barack Obama, who was half English, were either German, Scottish, Dutch, or Englishman. It's complete bollocks. It's Protestants.
Hey, Lars, you have no idea what you're talking about, buddy.
Literally no fucking idea what you're talking about.
So America actually didn't have, hold on, Lars. There was actually no immigration policy in the United States throughout most of the first century of the history of the United States. There was essentially no naturalization process. You came here, you could be part of the country. That was it. After the passage, there were exceptions. The big exception was, of course, people who came here in chains.
That's how Grandpa Rosenholtz got here, by the way. They were just like, welcome aboard. Your name's Cohen now.
Exactly. So the big difference was the 14th Amendment. You're familiar with the 14th Amendment?
It cut you off.
The 14th Amendment.
No, I don't know what that is. What is
the
that?
14th Amendment is an amendment to the Constitution. It was ratified after the Civil War. And it closed a loophole, an important loophole, which was that the big exception to that rule were people who were brought here in chains from Africa. They were not citizens, right, because they were enslaved. Some, when they became free, they became citizens. Some gained voting rights. Some even actually owned slaves themselves. It was a very, very small minority of them. But the 14th Amendment essentially included what is known as jus soli, birthright citizenship, right, right of the soil. This is different from most of Europe, where citizenship is just sanguineous, right? You have to be descended from a citizen, or sometimes multiple generations of citizens, in order to become a citizen yourself, right? You're familiar with all this?
That was also the case for the United States.
So no, it was not the case in the United States.
It used to be the case.
No, it was never the case for the United States. The 14th Amendment. This is a big difference between Europe and the Americas. The history of the Americas is a history of immigration. All of the independence movements in the Americas involve people from many different countries coming together, generally organized around some kind of ideal, generally some kind of enlightenment ideal. What you're thinking of in Europe, like the ethno-state model, that is very specific to Europe. It comes out of, in some ways, out of the same milieu as the French Revolution, but it comes out of the breakup. You said you're from Poland, right?
I'm Polish, yeah.
Yeah, so you're from a country that came out of the breakup of the Holy Roman Empire, right? And so, like the countries that
absolutely not. That's not how that went. But that's another story. We don't need to open that one up as well.
Okay. I know about the Welsh-Lithuanian Commonwealth, and it comes out of basically a borderland between the Holy Roman Empire and the Russian Empire, but whatever.
Yeah, let's just not get too deep into that. I appreciate how much you know.
Okay, so but the point is that in America, in the end of the 19th century, you start getting the first immigration laws, which are meant to exclude specific groups. The Chinese Exclusion Acts are the most famous ones. But in 1898, there's a case involving a man named Wong Kim Ark, who was born in the United States to Chinese parents. And this case goes up to the Supreme Court. And in 1898, March of 1898, the Supreme Court rules that because he was born on U.S. soil under the 14th Amendment, which had been ratified just a couple decades earlier, that he was, in fact, a U.S. citizen. And this is how it works for everybody in the United States these days. There's a couple of exceptions sort of on the peripheral, on the colonial periphery that had to be worked out from time to time. But what you're talking about, so you are extending back a very constrained part of history. When you're talking about laws meant to exclude non-Western European or non-white people from the United States, this is a period that starts with the Chinese Exclusion Acts in the 1880s and really gets going in with what is known as the Johnson-Reed Immigration Act. It was a very racist immigration act that was passed in, I believe, it was 1924. And then that period ends, as you said, with Lyndon Johnson's presidency. And they start lifting and expanding. Say again?
Yeah, that was 1924, the National Origins Quota Act.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was, Johnson and Reed, two fascists. So whoever you've been talking to, and I'm familiar with the talking point that you're using, whoever you've been talking to is familiar with the period from the Johnson-Reed Act to the Hatch Act. Not the Hatch Act, sorry, I'm blanking. But the law that was passed in the 1960s to expand the quota of people who were permitted to enter the United States from East Asia in particular.
The Migration and Refugee Assistance Act of 1962 was passed, and the 1965 Immigration and Nationality Act.
I'm forgetting who sponsored it though. It was the senator, and
one was Hart-Celler. The Hart-Celler Act was 1965.
I was for some reason I was thinking of Hatch, but it was Hart, right? So so the Hart Act. So it's basically the period between the Johnson-Reed Act in the 1920s and the Hart Act in the 1960s. But it is not true back to the founding of the country. This was a very constrained period of time. And what's happening in the 1920s? Same thing's happening in the 1920s in American politics, or at least similar to what's happening in Europe. You have heightened racism. You have heightened anti-Semitism. You have the fallout from the First World War. You have a huge period of isolationism, and that's where this comes from. But it's not a foundational precept of the United States. It's actually the minority of the years in which the United States had any kind of immigration policy at all, that it was as restricted as it was between the 1920s and the 1960s.
Okay, well, I really appreciate all the information. Very interesting. But I'm sorry, it didn't really change the things.
Now, how do we apply this to how black people are destroying the blood of our country? Right, Lars?
No, I've never said that. I've never said that. I've just said, and it was really interesting hearing that from you. But the point still stands. The country was majority white and majority even Germanic. You know, there's people from Germanic.
That's actually not true. So at one of the largest points of the slave era, almost all of, like, when we look at the Western Hemisphere, there was in many cases or many points throughout history that enslaved people outnumbered the amount of American citizens who were white. That's one of the reasons. That's one of the largest reasons for the Second Amendment, was that indigenous peoples, Latin peoples, and black peoples outnumbered, white Anglo-Saxon Europeans significantly, and that they were afraid that there might be an uprising, especially after what they saw happen in the Caribbean, or guess where? Haiti.
Lars, the other thing that's a little weird for me, speaking to somebody who's from Europe, is I would think that you have a more instinctive understanding of this. There was white didn't exist. There was no such thing as white people, really, up until fairly recently, and certainly throughout the 19th century. If you're looking at American history, if you went to Teddy Roosevelt, right, in the early 20th century, and you asked him, are you, his family was Anglo-Dutch. Are you the same race as an Irish person or an Italian person or a Polish person? He would have said, literally, are you kidding me? He actually was somebody who believed in what he called race suicide. He was obsessed with eugenics. He was obsessed with the ability of the Anglo-Saxon, and he expanded to Dutch people because his family was outside family.
Yeah, I know that.
Well, but so the idea that the majority of people in the country would have been a single race, and that race would have been white. That's just ahistorical. That isn't how people in the United States in the 19th century understood themselves.
Well, as I've said, tell me if I'm wrong. Am I wrong that all the founding fathers were British? Am I wrong that out of all the presidents, aside from Barack Obama, all were either Irish, Scottish, German, English, or Dutch?
Obama was half Irish. Just want to throw that out there.
Yeah, exactly. I've said that. He's half black. He's
not half black. He's only black. Like he's biracial in the sense that he has multiracial parents, but he himself is simply black. Not half.
There's only been 45 people who've been president since the founding of the country. All of whom were men, and there were women living here, as you're aware of that, right? So the idea that only the identity of the president is dispositive of the identity of the country, it doesn't hold. It's not a good argument.
I would say so. First of all, I don't think that 45 people is that little. We have around 10 chancellors here in Germany in our history from since the end of World War II. And as I've mentioned, all the founding fathers who are very crucial.
Some of them were Dutch and some of them were French Huguenots who settled in the colonies. Two of the signers were born in England, two in Ireland, two in Scotland, one in Northern Ireland, one in Wales. And then, like I said, some Dutch settlers and some French folks.
Chattel slavery was in place at the time. So that, I really don't understand. It's just a strange argument to assume that
more to the point,
because of the racial makeup of the people in Independence Hall in 1776, that is how Americans understand what the ideal makeup of their country should be. I don't understand. And beyond that, the framers of the Constitution, some of them were just abject racists, of course. But they understood that they were creating, in some sense, a plural society. There were debates about how plural it should become, but ultimately they made a framework for a country that would become extremely pluralistic. And at a time when, for instance, Jews were not welcome in Europe, in the vast majority of Europe, George Washington was writing letters to Jewish congregations saying that you have as much a part of our new country as I do. So they were, and they established a separation between church and state.
Hey, Gadarius and Jonathan, do you mind if I ask Lars a question really quick?
Yeah, go for it. I'm making dinner.
Hey, Lars, do you think that the Jewish people deserve to occupy their ancestral lands in Israel?
Do you really want to get into this debate? I think this would just, it's a little bit out of place.
How so?
It's a very, very controversial topic,
Definitely. Not as opposed to people of color coming in and destroying the fabric of different countries. That's not controversial at all.
But that was the topic. If we would be talking about
this is the same topic.
Yeah, this is the same topic.
It's the same topic, Lars.
It is so complicated. It is so extremely.
This one's complicated.
Yeah, of course, but that's what we were talking about. That was the topic. If we would be talking about Israel and you would bring up America all of a sudden, I also would tell you, well, let's not.
We're talking about immigration and people moving places.
Literally, Israel is probably one of the most complicated regions in the entire world to understand. It's such a complex topic.
As complex as European settlers coming here and unaliving so many indigenous people that they change the core temperature of the earth, like that kind of complex.
Yes, it's a lot more complex. Yes, because
busing in entire populations of other people from different countries to build a population.
Yes, it is much
less complicated.
Yeah, we don't have Romans in there. We don't have a weird overtake of a sect of Judaism over the Roman Empire that became the state religion of Rome. Then we had the Ottomans coming there, the Arabs moving there. It is so complicated.
Okay, we've established how complicated it is. Now answer his question, please. With all of that context now firmly in our brains, answer his question.
About if the Jews have a right to live in Israel, yes?
Mm-hmm. Very simple question. Yes.
I personally believe that they should live there. Yes, I don't like the way the Israeli state is treating the Palestinians. I think the Palestinians also have a right to a state of their own, but I think the Jews have flat religious persecution throughout the entire world. It is a good idea to give them a state where they can live for themselves and pursue their own destiny.
Great. So the indigenous peoples on this side of the world, right, on this continent, also have the right to occupy their indigenous lands or ancestral lands. See how that works?
Yeah, but they are gone. I'm very sorry. The Europeans came. They brought
No, they're not. They're not gone. Actually, they live all across the United States and in Central and South America.
Not really. If we look at Mexico,
yes, really. Actually, they really do.
No, it depends.
I live here. I live just in Florida. Yeah, so we actually are not all gone. We're actually still here.
You don't. Do you even speak your native language? English is your first language, I guess so. Right?
Hold on. What difference?
No, that's a great point. Erasure definitely happened for sure. Good job, Lars.
Your identity is gone. I'm very sorry. I think it's a pity. I think it's a pity what happened to your people. It's very sad. I wish it wouldn't have happened.
You think it's a pity?
You're talking to.
They came. They brought in diseases. It was, of course, I'm not saying that
they're still here, Lars. We have not a good system, but entire parcels of our country devoted to Native Americans. Who do you think is there?
What percentage of the U.S.
Who gives a fuck?
It doesn't matter. What percentage? Jewish people only made up 1% of all of Europe. Less than 1% in some cases. I don't understand what your point is.
Well, I think if we look at the Holocaust, I think we can agree that there was something different than what happened.
I'm not going to compare atrocities, but so many indigenous people were unalive that it changed the temperature of the earth.
I would have to look that one up, but
Jones, what shape is the earth, though?
Certainly, an obelisk. I'm sorry, I'm just like
climate change is not real.
It's fucking round.
If we look, for example, at Mexico's population is kind of a mix. It's a mix between the descendants of the Aztecs and Spanish and European immigrants. And there are people who will look more European, like Canelo. He could be an Irish, and then you have other Mexicans who look a little bit more like a native American. And then in Brazil, it's another thing.
Indigenous people and cultures all throughout the Caribbean, right? All throughout, the middle of our country, the Midwest. All throughout, the eastern seaboard and eastern coast. I don't even know I don't know what your point is.
My point is this.
So hold on. So after thousands of years, because when you say, oh, well, they were harmed, they're all gone, so on and so forth, you do understand that the vast majority of Jewish people do not speak Hebrew or Aramaic anymore. They were moved out of their country thousands of years prior and were able to return. And now you're saying that hundreds of years have gone by and indigenous peoples aren't allowed to return to their land.
Well, first off,
one was thousands of years. And they changed their language over time.
First off, I don't know how familiar you are with Jewish history in Europe, but
very familiar, as a matter of fact. I wrote my thesis on fascism.
So you know what Yiddish is, right?
Yes,
so,
I'm very aware.
The most Jews in Europe lived in Poland, around 3.5 to 4 million. Most of them could speak Yiddish and Polish, and there were even plans to implement Yiddish as the main language.
But not Hebrew or Aramaic, my friend.
Yeah, but the Hebrew they are speaking today, that's not a real language.
I'm very aware.
It's a synthetic fabricate.
This is absurd.
I guess, Mike, I don't understand. We've been, okay, for the last 30 minutes, we've been talking about how human beings have been moved forcibly or of their own choice and imperialism across the globe, weaving in and out of these societies, all of the ones that we're talking about. And for you, I think, just to bring this back, the idea that like races should be separated. If I am miscategorizing your argument, please correct me. But like the merging of races in a modern like society is somehow untenable. I'm just curious as to how you think that, considering how humans have moved around this flat Earth for all of human history.
So we're now moving away from the whole Native American thing. Okay.
We're talking about the same thing that we have been this entire time.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Cats,
obvious.
I appreciate you, dude.
Of course, immigration.
Big fan.
As you've mentioned, people have always moved. Immigration always happened, and I think to some degree, immigration is nothing you should concern yourself too much about. But if there is mass migration, just gigantic masses of people moving to another country that hold another culture, another religion, it will lead to conflict. You can see it in Europe. In the last 100 years, we had the Ottoman Empire that failed, Austria-Hungary failed, Yugoslavia failed, the Soviet Union failed. It's all the same. You've got different people, different ethnicities, different religion, and they don't get along.
These places failed because of capitalism for the most part, and because imperialist nations like the United States, right, and like in the British Empire, the UK, don't want people to do anything that's even remotely close to socialism, because then other nations or other people, citizen groups, will realize that capitalism is coercive in nature and a succubus to your soul and won't want to participate. So that's why, especially like the USSR, they industrialized at a rate 300 times faster than any other nation. It failed because nations like the United States said, you know what, that we can't let that happen.
Why did Yugoslavia fail, or the Ottoman Empire, or the Austrian Empire, or Rome? It's all the same.
Mostly out of greed.
Greed. Okay, that's a new one to me. And
How?
The Ottoman Empire, it was generals. It was the Ottoman Empire has oppressed to a certain degree a lot of different ethnicities, Albanians, Arab people, and they wanted to split. They wanted to live in their own country.
And it failed because they wanted to oppress different cultures, you're saying, and it failed? That's so interesting.
Yeah, to a certain degree, yes. Yeah, of course, but I opposed everything the United States has been doing.
No. You just said the Ottoman Empire. You just said the Ottoman Empire tried to suppress different cultures, and ultimately it failed.
Yeah, exactly. Don't go and slay beasts. The Americans, the founding fathers had the exact same doctrines. Don't go out there, try to conquer half of the world, because the immigrants are going to come into your country, and then you're going to have a problem. Just like Rome, just like England, just like France. Don't do that.
I mean, the Ottoman Empire.
Rome didn't fall because a bunch of people showed up.
Of course, this is what happened. They moved to the north. They expanded to the north. They conquered the Germanic peoples and the Gallian peoples.
That's two different things.
I don't know why you're screaming.
Yeah,
because it's
Empire
insane.
failed because of nationalism, much the same way that Germany ended up losing World War II. So
because they expanded.
Yeah, when they got involved in World War I with Germany, it led to all types of loss for the Ottomans, for the Ottoman Empire. So I mean, they lost because of greed. Essentially, just like I said, their military was weak. They had a lot of nationalist movements within its territories, which were super diverse. So it's weird to have a nationalist movement when you have a bunch of diversity within your peoples.
Can I just ask a just specific question? You keep saying different cultures, and I'm just curious. How are you assigning value to certain cultures and I guess devaluing others? Which ones are the good ones, Lars, and which ones are the bad ones?
I mean, it depends on how you look at history, but there are a couple.
According to you.
Well, there are a couple that really stand out. I respect the English and the Germans, over everything. But China is also that's just such a really they are a force of nature in the whole of human civilization. But also the Middle East, they had very successful cultures. India shouldn't be overlooked. It's very diverse, but in the last 2,000 years, especially the Western Europeans and the Chinese and the very, very close cultures to them really stood out.
So you just named all cultures. Which one? So, like, all of those are good. Eastern European cultures, like Arabic cultures, Chinese culture. So if these places are immigrating to other places, that's fine.
I mean, especially the Chinese and the Japanese. Look at Sino-Americans. They are better off than white people. They.
Okay, that's not what I'm asking. I'm asking if Chinese people are immigrating to other countries, that's fine.
Actually not. There's a huge population of Chinese people in the United States, a huge population that are very, very, very poor. As a matter of fact, there's a ton of Chinese people, women specifically, that are trafficked here in the United States. I don't know if you know that or not. So the vast majority of people from China that live in the United States, and I do mean the vast majority, are not well off at all. Asian people, the Asian countries, right, that are the Asian demographic that does well here in the United States are people that are already educated, especially in tech areas, prior to them coming here from India or Japan or Korea or China.
There's a lot of poor Chinese people in China too.
Correct.
Lars,
they're still underrepresented in every.
Great.
When we're looking at all these places that you named, the vast majority of them fell because of fascistic ideologies, because of nationalism and greed.
My point is, Lars, people immigrating to China from Europe, fine. People from China immigrating to Europe, fine. People from, as you say, the Middle East, apparently immigrating to Europe, fine.
Absolutely not. Extremely problematic. Shouldn't be done. We should completely lock.
You said Middle Eastern countries' society was great 2 seconds ago.
Yes, but that doesn't mean that I want them to immigrate into our country.
So when I asked you which cultures are better, and you listed all of the good cultures on Earth, why wouldn't you, amongst the good cultures that you listed, want them to be immigrating to other? Why is that bad?
Because there are certain cultures that are just different than ours. You can like two things.
Different how?
They have a different approach to life. They see
different how?
Well, first of all, Muslims, generally speaking, they don't really understand our concept of liberty in the West. They have a little bit of a problem of understanding that. I'm not saying that that's a wrong thing. They're just different than us in this regard. They cannot understand, especially the American ideal of freedom of speech.
They hate gay people, for instance.
Exactly. That's also something they cannot understand, that we just let people...
You don't, though.
I've said that 2 hours ago, 1 hour ago, but that's no problem. I'm just saying they look at the Gulf states, countries like Bahrain, like Saudi Arabia, they're doing fine. And I wish them all the best. And they can do their thing, we're doing our thing. It's not like I'm saying, oh, those sand people, they shouldn't come to our country because their culture is so bad and we are superior because we are white people. That's not what I'm saying.
The fact that he just said that in 4K is crazy.
But it is, though. It is what you're saying. And we hear it, dude. We can hear it with our own ears. I'm trying to get you to say it, and you did. And I know that you were trying to say, I'm not like that, but you for sure are. You're saying that these people don't belong here. And for the life of me, I swear to God, I can't even...
Bro is literally a whole Yahtzee. But all these places that he named quite literally failed because of fascism. Because
he doesn't think that he is, but that definitely...